What's up, guys? We're back with another Ask a Pro political edition. We have a very special guest, somebody who's very near and dear to my heart, always has a smile on her face, very nice person. Anybody you ask, regardless of your political beliefs, they will tell you she is an amazing person, first and foremost. And what are you running for, Miss Rita Howard Watkins? What are you running for this year?
Well, first I want to say thank you so much for that, because I truly appreciate that. But I'm running for Sebastian County Circuit Court Judge, Division VI.
Okay. For some reason that doesn't flow well with the way I speak, so we just let her say that. But so the election is coming up. The voting starts March 3rd, is that correct?
Yes.
Early voting is February 17th?
Yes, and since it's a holiday, the voting actually won't start until the 18th, but early voting will begin then, and the actual primary election is on March the 3rd.
Yeah, so very exciting times, especially in Fort Smith. You know, everybody's coming out to support whoever they're supporting right now. But, you know, I definitely wanted to have you here to, you know, just get people to get a chance to get to know you and also know what you stand for. And they can make their decisions or whoever they want to vote for. But we definitely wanted to share our platform with you. So tell us a little bit about who Rita is, where she comes from, and just kind of the beginning. Where did it all start?
Wow.
It wasn't that long ago.
Oh, okay. So I was born and raised here in Fort Smith.
Okay.
And went to elementary school here. Went through the Fort Smith public school system. Graduated from Northside in 1990. I'm putting age on it. It's okay. I'm okay with that. And I went to Oregon State on a basketball scholarship. Now, one thing I want to share with the group and to everybody, something that I hold near and dear to my heart too, is that when I played for basketball at Northside, I actually still hold the scoring record for most points scored in a game.
Hey, listen, if y'all don't know, for those who don't know, the Northside Lady Bears, it's a lot of history. McDonald's All-Americans, state championships. How many points was that? How much you scored?
35 points.
Woo!
35 points.
There you go.
It's almost been beat. I think one girl, Shanita Arnold, scored like 34 points, and Wolfenbarger, I think recently scored 33. Yeah. And I was sitting there and I was just like, oh, and I'm excited. You know, if somebody does beat it, that's fine. But that record is now 30 years old, so I'm still pretty stoked about that.
Yeah. So what about Oregon State? What took you all the way out there?
Wow. Well, I was not. You can ask anybody. Whenever I started playing basketball, I didn't start playing basketball until my 7th grade year. And the only reason I played is because it was kind of the cool thing to do. Kids played, and I was really tall. I couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. Coaches will tell you that in a minute. But I went to the basketball camps, got better at the sport, and really started to enjoy it. But then, and now I was at Darby. I went to Darby Junior High. Okay. And so I was at Darby when I played ball. And then all the good girls that played basketball went to Kimmons.
Okay.
And then we all ended up at Northside together. Okay. Well, they weren't very nice, some of them, and so I wasn't going to play. Okay. But the coach just followed me around the school for months.
Hounded you to play.
Yes.
Because you had height, of course.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I finally gave in, and I went to practice and watched them. And I think my sophomore year in high school, I might have played 53 seconds was the most I played. Wow. I practiced a lot and worked hard, but that was it my sophomore year.
So when did you start to develop into the basketball player that, you know, Oregon State, I mean, that's a Division I school if you guys don't know. So that's big time.
Yes, that summer, after my sophomore year, I started going to basketball camps and developing the fundamental skills that I needed, and realized at that point that I was actually an athlete and I could play ball. Yeah. And so I went to basketball camp at St. Gregory's College in Shawnee, Oklahoma. And the coach there, Coach Hudson, he actually left St. Gregory's, went to Oregon State. Oh, wow. Came back to Fort Smith and recruited me and a couple of other girls from my team to come up to Oregon State and play. Yeah. And I went on my recruiting visit and absolutely fell in love with the beach.
Yeah.
The ocean was just calling my name.
Uh-huh.
And it was just a good fit. And I'm so blessed that I actually went to school at Oregon State, because it was, I mean, one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. Actually.
Quick question. So it's when you were in, grade school, obviously you were a late bloomer as far as athleticism goes. And coming from an earlier bloomer, we tend to care more about sports than school because we know from an early age, hey, we got it. Mm-hmm. You were a later bloomer, so did you focus more on school? Did you always have that passion for law and history and things like that when you were a kid, or how did that come about? Or did you always have that? Well,
when it was crazy because growing up here in Fort Smith, I grew up with a poor household. Mm-hmm. My mom did not graduate high school. She actually had me when she was, I think, her senior year in high school.
Okay.
And so that was a tough one for me. Like it almost growing up, I felt like it was my fault my mom didn't graduate and wasn't able to pursue her career goals and what she wanted to do. But my mom hung the moon, and she truly let me realize that she would sacrifice and do anything for me. And I learned from her, and I hope I can do the same for my child growing up, while raising her. But I never really thought that I would be a lawyer. I never really thought that, honestly, I always thought that I would be working in a factory or a chicken plant, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's what I saw.
Yeah.
And that's what I assumed that's what I would be doing growing up.
Yeah.
And, but one day, I remember I was in civics class, junior high at Darby, and Mr. Schambarger, and I remember this like it was yesterday, we had an opportunity to do a mock trial.
Okay.
That was it right there. I knew then and there I wanted to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
I remember my case, my client. I was a defense attorney, and this kid vandalized a building. I had to represent him there, and I was just like, I really like this. I think I could be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Schambarger allowed me to be judge.
Wow.
Oh yeah, and that was
it
it
for you.
That was it. That was it. I'm going to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
Now, something that over the years I always wondered to myself, what actually gave me the audacity to think, and that a kid, a poor black girl from Fort Smith, Arkansas, with parents who aren't educated. What gives me the audacity to think that I could possibly become an attorney and do that? And I honestly, it is the grace of God. Yeah. The Lord put it in my heart and in my head, and it's like when I did not read the book The Audacity of Hope by Barack Obama, but when I saw that book, I was like, that's my life.
That's you.
That is my life. I've always felt that way. What actually gave me the audacity to think that I could achieve this? And, God has guided my footsteps, just like He's guiding my steps towards this judicial, endeavor. I truly believe that. Yeah. And so I just focused on grades, and it wasn't really hard. It was, I just was instinctive student. Yeah. And so I enjoyed school. I enjoyed extracurricular activities. I remember being at Northside. I was actually the president of the Spanish club or the Spanish Honor Society. And I could actually read, novels in Spanish. Yeah. I wish I could speak a lot better, but
so books was always something that came instinctive.
Yes.
It was something for me. I had to switch. Like I said, I was an earlier bloomer, so athletics was first for me, and then the schooling. But thankfully, like you said, by the grace of God, if you were an earlier bloomer, you knew the talent you had earlier, you may have been the same way, and you may not be where you are today. So I think that's amazing, and just having your upbringing is very humbling.
Yes.
I think that's what gave you the audacity. You've seen the bottom, so it's only up from here.
That's right.
So you just have all these possibilities in your head. So when you get to Oregon State, what was your major?
Okay, so when I get to Oregon State, my major was athletics, was basketball.
Oh my God.
As a student athlete, that's your focus.
Exactly.
And so I started out, I studied liberal studies.
Okay.
So I thought I could just encompass everything, because even though I had in the back of my mind that I wanted to go to law school, I was told that it's not, you don't have to have a specific major to do law school.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just do liberal studies. That way I can touch everything. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, well, I like to talk and I like to debate, so maybe I'll do communications. That was not good.
Yeah.
Communications was not what I thought at all.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then, of course, I got into political science, the very first political science 101. And I was like, this is right up my alley.
Yeah. Was that freshman year?
Yeah. No. This was my junior year.
Okay.
So I had a lot of catching up to do.
Yeah.
I had a lot of catching up. And then as an athlete, I was taking the minimum amount of credits that I could
to graduate and stay eligible.
That's exactly it. So my last 2 years, since I didn't play my junior or senior year, my last 2 years, and we were on the trimester system, so I was taking 18 course hours per trimester.
That's a lot.
Yes, it was.
To give you guys some insight of that, 15 is like the maximum that you really want to take. That's the recommended. So 18, you're probably taking a class or two extra.
Yes. It was a lot
to
of
catch
work.
up. Yeah.
Right, so I could actually graduate in 4 years. And I did end up graduating in 4 years.
Political science degree?
Yes, with a degree in political science. And it was right up, it was exactly what I needed to be doing. And it prepared me for law school. Mm-hmm. In that I had a professor, constitutional law professor, that had us practice writing. And that prepared me for writing once I got to law school.
Yeah. So as far as, what graduate school did you go to and where was it located?
I attended law school at Washington Lee University, and that is in Lexington, Virginia. And people ask me, how did you end up all the way in Virginia from Oregon? So Arkansas, and then Oregon, and then Virginia.
All the way on the other coast.
Yes. I ended up at Washington and Lee, and I'm telling you, God has truly guided my steps. When I was at Oregon State, I worked as an intern in the affirmative action office. So I worked for the vice president of affirmative action, and her daughter happened to be in admissions at Washington and Lee University, and she knew my personality, my academics, and she thought you'd be perfect at W&L. And I thought, I didn't even know this school. Well, I looked it up and I got information about it, and it was one of the top 20 law schools in the country at the time. And it's like, again, audacity. What in the world? God, this is where you want me to be.
Yeah.
And so I went on a recruiting visit. They actually paid and flew me out there with some other students and showed us the ropes. And it was kind of difficult to get behind that whole ordeal of being at a school where Robert E. Lee, the school's named after Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
But
a lot of history in Lexington and Virginia as a whole.
Yes.
And being so close to the capital, it's a lot of history there. So obviously. Mm-hmm.
But it was, I just knew that I was getting a top-notch law school education. And every once in a while, the history is actually kind of cool when you would go to Lee Chapel and see, his horse was there on campus, buried on campus, and so was he and his wife and Martha Washington. Just all the history that was there. Mm-hmm. I didn't experience much, and I say much, racist behavior from people. Yeah. It was mostly from the community members as opposed to the students. Uh-huh. I did, had to deal with somebody that was speaking ignorance. Yeah. And it was sad. It was actually really sad. But
that's more so anywhere. But you can only speak from your experience as well.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Well, yeah, because if I think about my experience at Oregon State, It was amazing. I joined a predominantly white sorority. I'm a Delta Gamma. And it was great because at my house, the women there accepted me and loved me no matter, they had no clue that I was this color.
Yeah.
And they treated me like that. And it was a blessing. One of my sorority sister's parents, the first time they met me, and actually I was voted in as president of my house.
Wow.
So out of 15 sororities on campus, probably 1,500 girls in each house, there was 1.5 black, because there was one girl that was mixed.
Yeah.
And then there was me.
Yeah.
That was it. And I was elected president of my chapter. I was also on the Panhellenic Council on campus. But people did show me respect, and not once did anybody, some people might get mad at me and they might have called me out my name, but nobody ever used that one word.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that I was able to experience that. But my sorority sister's parents had come up for a parents' weekend or one of our parties, and they said, "How come you never told us Rita was black?" And she was like, "Well, I didn't really think it was important.
Yeah.
It's just Rita."
Everybody treated you the same.
That's right. They talked about all the time. Rita played basketball. Rita's from Arkansas. Rita did this and Rita did that, but never once.
And times were a little bit different. We're in 2020, and the things she's talking about, it sounds, why does this matter? But what you talk about, what year were you at Oregon State?
1990 through 94.
Yeah, so times were a lot different.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think now there's there's still things that go on, but I think there's a lot more inclusion.
Yes.
And a lot of people are accepting and understanding that, everybody has talents and they have abilities. And, we're all the same at the end of the day. So.
Yes, and that's the thing that I want to make sure that people understand, that it doesn't matter, your socioeconomic background, it doesn't matter your racial background. It's just be human.
Yeah.
Show people respect and show them honesty and integrity, just because they're humans.
Yeah.
That's it. Just be a human. And if you want to be treated a certain way, that's the way that you should treat others.
Yeah.
And I believe that wholeheartedly in every walk of my life.
For sure. That's awesome. So when you get to, we'll fast forward through your graduate career, once you are officially, you pass your bar exam, you do all that good stuff, where, your journey up till today, what are some things that you think is most notable and you want people to know about, some of the things that you've done over your law career that's been, 20 plus years. It's been a long time. Pretty much my entire life you've been, fighting for the people.
Yeah.
So tell me some things that you've done, some cases that you're proud of, some situations that you want people to know that qualifies you as, for your position.
Okay. I would first have to say that passing the bar exam was not easy.
I bet.
I honestly, and I just hate to open up this can of worms, but I honestly can't even remember. I think I took the bar 3 times.
Yeah.
I am a terrible standardized test taker. I can write an essay to knock anybody out the park.
Yeah.
But if you put some multiple choice questions in front of me,
start second.
I think honestly when I took my driver's test, the actual written part, I think I had to take it a second time.
Yeah.
But standardized tests were really difficult for me. With that being said, if you look up the word perseverance, and I say it's like an encyclopedia. There's probably not encyclopedias anymore, so let's say Wikipedia. But if you look it up, you're going to see a picture of me like this.
Yeah.
Because that is the one thing that's one characteristic that I don't say pride either. It means a lot to me that I am able to persevere.
Yeah.
I didn't give up.
Yeah.
There was no way I was going to give up. And because of that, it was the sweetest, most wonderful feeling.
Yeah.
to actually pass the bar exam.
Yeah.
And honestly, I believe that God was preparing me for that because, I mean, it was 7 years after I graduated law school. So I passed the bar in 2004 and I graduated law school in 97.
Wow.
So during that time, I worked as a paralegal, and so, which is great because I was getting hands-on the experience that I needed in other areas of law. I worked in estate planning. I worked in personal injury. I did a little dabble in bankruptcy, domestic relations. I mean, just kind of everything, a little bit of everything, which was great. I mean, I even worked as a secretary and a paralegal. And I think that actually gave me an opportunity to know that you got to respect everybody that you work with.
Yep.
From the judges all the way down to the janitors and the the janitorial group, because we're all humans again, and everybody needs to have that respect, and you need to take into consideration that person might be going through some things or their job is hard, just like the partner in a law firm, their job is hard. But everybody has a job in order to make things work. Yes, and they have their own challenges. And so that's one thing. Perseverance is just definitely something that I'll hold that until my last breath.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, as far as equality and justice, making sure that people are treated fairly, I mean, that's something that's dear to my heart.
Yeah, especially with your seat. I mean, tell them, the seat that you're running for, tell them exactly what you would be doing and what you'd be responsible for, and they'll understand how important it is. I know.
Yes. Well, the seat that I'm actually running for in Division VI, it's only 20% of criminal cases. The rest of the cases are civil cases, so it'd be civil lawsuits, probably like medical malpractice, those type of things, real estate, anything that pops up. Even though I've been working as a public defender for the last 15 years, and my focus was primarily on criminal defense, like I said previously, even though it may not have been in the courtroom in front of a judge, I've had quite a bit of experience working even in business law. One of the law firms I worked at in Portland actually did construction law. And so I was helping to set up businesses, nonprofits, things like that. I also worked as an adjunct professor out at University of Arkansas, Fort Smith. So I have all that experience, which is great, and I plan on using that while I'm on the bench. People ask, are you scared? Are you nervous? A lot of times judges are afraid that they're going to make a decision that's going to get overturned by a higher up court. I'm not thinking like that. I want to make sure that I am making decisions based on the law. The judges here in Sebastian County that I've ever worked in front of have been great mentors. I've learned a lot from them. I've learned, what I would like to continue and what I'd like to change. Yeah. There's not much, because sometimes if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah. And there's some things that are the way that our system is being run is very effective, but I think they understand that there are some changes that need to be made. Yeah. I would hope at some point in my career that the caseload would gravitate a little bit more to allow for more criminal cases in that division. But if not, either way it goes, I plan on using the experience that I have and the education that I have to be able to be the best judge that I can be.
Yeah, and the most important thing, as a business owner in the area, we want somebody in the seat who's going to be, like you said, fair, honest, and, not be able to be bought. So that's all politics. That's a big topic in the presidential election right now.
Yes.
Who's paying for what? Who's sponsoring you and things like that. At the end of the day, you just want somebody who's fair and honest. And, what do you have to say about that?
I agree with that completely. I didn't come from money. I don't know a lot of people that do or have a lot of money. I have been blessed enough to work hard for what I have. My family, my husband owns a business. We are able to provide for our child. And I feel really good about being able to essentially break the cycle of poverty, and we're only going to do better. It's only going to get better.
Yeah.
But the only way that it can get better is if people that are in positions like judicial positions or positions of elected officials, and I hate to say power because it's not, to me, it just,
influence.
It's too much. Yes. Influence. If you have that opportunity to be able to make a change or a difference in somebody else's life, then do that. But as far as making sure that everybody has an even, we start out justice. It needs to be even. It needs to be fair.
Even playing field for everybody.
For everybody. And that's what I intend to do whenever I'm elected to the bench. That's my life. I always want it to be fair for everybody. I've represented, let me tell you, when we were asking about some of the cases and the clients that I've represented, I have, as a public defender, we get appointed to cases that we may not, as a private attorney, have taken those cases in. And I have represented a number of members of the white supremacy, NLR, a lot of these hate groups. Yeah. And these men, I think I maybe have one woman, one female, but most of the time those men showed me more respect than I've gotten from people of color.
Why is that? What do you think?
They always, and they will say this too, they will say, we've heard that you're the best lawyer down there, best public defender down there, and we trust you, Miss Rita. And we want you to represent us. And the funniest thing and that I've mentioned to one guy is I said, okay. And I heard that this man was actually high up in the group. And I said, okay. I said, that it doesn't matter to me what you're doing outside of this courtroom or outside of this jail. Mm-hmm. I am going to do my best to represent you regardless, because I take more pride in doing a good job and being a great attorney than thinking this man got issues. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to pray for you, which is what I have done often. But I told him, I said, okay, I know what you do. I've been informed. They told me this. He goes, yes, ma'am. He said, but I promise you, you're a good lawyer and I know it. And I'd rather have that. And I said, just promise me when you see me out on the street and your homeboys want to act a fool with somebody that looks like me or you think is me, please tell them I got her back. Don't mess with her or her family. And that's the respect that I've gotten.
What are some other things that we should be on the lookout for during this election? What should be important to the voters? What should they, take into account when they're making their decisions?
I think that the voters should definitely, and if you're talking about the judicial race, because we have
judicial. We got
Yeah, there's so many issues going on right now. But as far as judicial race goes, there are so many different races right now. And not to be, confuse the Division VI race with the Division VII race. And then there's also 3 district court races, which are mostly misdemeanor court cases. There are some preliminary hearings that occur down there, but circuit court is primarily cases that have a money limit that's higher, obviously, and also the criminal cases. If it's somebody that can get prison time, anything in excess of a year in the county jail. I would definitely make sure that you get knowledgeable about everybody that's running in a particular race. And just know what their stances are. A big thing is definitely going to be the experience. We are all attorneys. We're all attorneys that have been working in the field for a while. So the experience, people shouldn't be too concerned about a person being able to have the knowledge, because when you graduate law school and you pass the bar, that's
the law.
Yes. As far as the education goes, and the knowledge, we've got that. I've seen judges that have been, and this is what kind of gives me comfort in knowing that I am definitely capable, more than capable, to take the bench. Is that, you don't automatically have to know these things in your head. It's just like, an attorney that's been practicing, 20 years or 30 years, the laws change. We have to keep abreast on the new laws that are coming in. We have to make sure we're following those. And guess what? If I have to pull out my code book and look it up, guess what? That's what I'm going to do. I don't have any problem asking questions. If I have, and that's another great thing that I've been blessed with, the members of Sebastian County Bar Association, or even the people that are just involved in my life. If I do have a question, I'm able to go to that person or somebody has a question for me and they say, Miss Rita, I got this problem with, child custody or something like that. Well, I don't know. I may not know specific answers to your question, but guess what? I probably know somebody who does. And before I went into law, that wasn't my life. I never knew any attorneys growing up. Not one. I didn't know doctors growing up. My child was delivered by a Black female doctor. And she was also born into a Black president. So, and then her mom is a lawyer. And, for her to be able to see that is possible. And and that's almost another reason why I want to make sure, and I'm telling you, I'm the right person to vote for. I want to make sure that little girls and boys that grew up here in Fort Smith, that grew up in anywhere in the country, but if you grow up and you can see that, look at what Miss Rita did. Look at what Miss Rita is able to accomplish. The person that she can be, what she's done in the community. I can do that and I can still be successful even though I grew up like this. It's just, it means a lot to me. That's why I came back home. People ask me all the time, why did you come back to Fort Smith? Well, that's why. I wanted little kids that grew up just like me to see that it is possible to be whatever it is you want to be if you work hard at it.
Well, we need to see that. I remember even me as, becoming a principal broker. I haven't seen any African American brokers, to my knowledge, the only one ever.
Wow.
And, at being 27, I'm definitely the youngest too. And I understand exactly what you're saying. You just want to show everybody else that it's possible more than anything else. And in addition to that, you say you're going to operate fair and honest. So I think, those are good qualities to look for. Everybody's going to make their own decision. what do you have to say to the people who may say, I'm only worried about the presidential election. I'm not too worried about local. And they may not say it out loud, but that's their thoughts. They're just worried more about the bigger elections. Why do people need to focus on those local elections?
The most important reason I think people should definitely, I don't want to say focus in on, but the local elections have so much more of an impact on our everyday lives than let's say the presidential election. We think about the president. Yes, everybody's going to go out and vote because that's the big one.
Yeah.
But if you think about the legislators, they're the ones who make the laws. If you want to make sure that the laws encompass what you believe and the laws are focusing on what you need in your community, then it is imperative that people get out and vote in the local election so that they can see that where's the biggest impact going to come from. And there is in dealing with the judicial election, it is imperative that people come out and vote and make sure that we do have fair and just judges on the bench, because you can be affected by somebody coming in and trying to take your property without fair compensation or something, or you could have been involved as a victim in a case. You want to make sure that, or even a defendant for sure, you want to make sure that your case is looked at fairly. You want to make sure that you got just as much shot at justice as anybody else. And and the only way you can do that is to make sure that you are instrumental in making sure that the right person is elected into that position.
Makes sense. So that would affect your everyday life, whether it's I'm in the real estate industry, of course. Let's just somebody they deceived you and got your property for a lot cheaper than they should have. They use their experience as a competitive advantage against you. That's something they would come to you in a civil case, and if that person has been they bought and paid for, you're going to lose that case.
That's right.
Because that favor is going to go a lot longer. Money may go a lot longer in that judge's favor than just little old you or me who's sitting there who has a case. So that makes sense. What are some things that we can do as a community, to wrap it up, to make Fort Smith a better place? What can we do?
Well,
give me one thing.
One thing.
'Cause I know you got a lot.
Right, I know. I've been so involved in everything, and I try to get my hands into as much as because I want to make sure that I can open up doors.
Yeah.
For everyone, I want everybody to be able to have an opportunity to help. But it is so important, especially 2020 with the census coming out. It is so important to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, not afraid of sharing that information, because in order to make sure that our community is able to get the funding that it's needed, in order to ensure that we can get the businesses here in Fort Smith, make sure that we can get companies or professionals here, whatever we need best for our students, our kids. I think that's right now. I would have to say that the judicial election is probably the most important thing in my life right now.
Yeah.
But I also know that the future of our community is definitely going to hinge upon people filling out these census forms, participating in the census, the 2020 census. And, I have to encourage everyone. I think our mayor and Ms. Storm are doing an amazing job trying to get the word out. I want to encourage people to do that as well. But that's the only way that we're going to make this area, we're going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to make this a place where people will want to come and stay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
You know.
So the census, if you get something in the mail, I've even had some people from the census contact me about properties that I have for sale, because I have so many. They've called me several times about properties, you know, that I have on the market. Hey, how many people are in this building?
Wow.
You know, is it somebody living in that 4th unit upstairs? I know it's a multi-family house. So I've even had to come around and educate myself about the census and understanding the significance of it, because yeah, it's a big deal. And I don't think they're counting or they're asking for, you know, if you're legal, illegal,
Right,
alien.
right.
It doesn't matter. I think they just want to know the number of people. So definitely participate in that. So I appreciate you coming on, sitting down with me. It meant a lot. You guys, you know, the election is taking place on March 3rd. So definitely participate in that, make an impact in your community. And thank you so much, Mrs. Rita. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys next time. Thank you.